hear it.
Testing, testing. Jerry is in the chat and he likes men.
Oh, that was me. That was me. You could hear my voice.
I got you guys, I got you. I know how to do it. Okay, we should be good. Now we should be good. Yeah, we're good. All right. I don't think our voices are that laggy, but we are very laggy. But it doesn't matter. We're just gonna move into it, Tubby. What do you know? We're here again. 2023 predictions. We got each division. We did go through our classic playoff predictor, so these aren't just numbers that we picked out of nowhere. But obviously, it's pretty early in the year, still June. But we're just gonna get into it. I'm ready when you are, Tub.
Let's go.
All right. On that note, let us start. And you're gonna see it all at once. We're gonna go team by team though. NFC West. And what do you know? I'll let them soak it in. Then we can discuss here. So, the San Francisco 49ers are both of our first place teams. 11-6 for me, 10-7 for you. What do you got to say about the Niners?
So obviously, I think the Niners. I have the whole NFC pretty weak this year. The best team is 11-6, so I got the Niners finishing as a 4 seed at 10-7. No doubt the best team in this division, possibly the best team in the NFC. They sure got the defense to make a run in the playoffs. My thought is just like who are they gonna start at quarterback? I mean, I don't know really the status of Brock Purdy or Trey Lance. I mean, they just kind of had a shit show at quarterback. So I think Brock Purdy deserves a starting spot. Either way, Brock Purdy or Trey Lance, they're going to win this division. Narrowly, but they won it.
First full year with Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, Jimmy G's out the door. You just said doesn't really matter between which QB they go with because to me, this is probably the most complete roster in the league. And I think they should be, I'm saying it now, it's the first team we're talking about, but I think they should be the favorites in the NFC. Maybe you disagree with that, but for me, it's just they probably would have went maybe the whole way if they had a healthy starting QB1 last year. Um, that's about it, though. We'll move into the Seahawks next. We both got them in, again, one game off, but both making the playoffs. For the Seahawks, they get 9 wins last season, and they bring back Bobby Wagner now and get like Devin Bush, a couple other guys on defense that should helped solidify that. Then they got JSN and Zach Charbonnet in the draft. So I think overall it's a slightly improved team. They made the playoffs last year, right? Am I wrong about that?
Yep.
Holy casual. All right. And yeah, I mean, they're going to run it back.
Yeah, I agree. I have them slipping in to the playoffs as a 7th seed. I think Gino has another great, solid year. And I was mentioning this to you earlier. I think like the Seahawks kind of always go all out in the draft, and it worked out for them last year with Tariq Woolen and Kenneth Walker. And I think it'll work out again with JSN and have a nice third down receiving back in Zach Charbonnet because Kenneth Walker is going to be the main back there. But yeah, they'll make the playoffs. I have faith in Gino.
What are the odds that the Seahawks can actually win the division? We both have them back by 1 game.
I know I only have them back by 1 game. I was kind of surprised when I saw the final standings because I didn't really look as I was going through it. But I don't think they're winning this division. I do have them going 5-1 in the division, which is I'm kind of just noticing that now. But San Fran's just too tough. They're gonna win it.
Okay, this is where we start to disagree for the first time tonight. Cardinals and Rams next. We can start with the Rams because you got them at 7-10 and I got them at 3 wins. So basically, this is probably my hottest take in the whole video. They last year I think still won like 5 games even with all the injuries they had. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say this might be a team that is tanking. Obviously, their core players are just old heads. I mean, Stafford, Kupp, Donald, all coming off injuries. Akers coming off an injury. They get rid of Bobby Wagner and Jalen Ramsey. I don't have much faith in this team, but you disagree, so let's hear it.
I disagree because I think the old heads still could play a little bit. They went 5 and 12 without basically the best guys on their team. So I think with Stafford and Kupp coming back from injury, they're just one of the best quarterback receiver duos in the league. I mean, there's no way they don't get 7 wins in my opinion. I think 7-10 is on the lower end. They could be a borderline playoff team, but I don't see them making the playoffs. They are getting old. They kind of went all out for a couple of years ago. I don't think it's going to happen.
Count me out on that one. No way are they in a playoff team. All right, let's go to the Cardinals next. A little closer on this one. 4 wins and 2 wins. You can start if you want. You got them 2 wins.
Yeah, I think Arizona's in full tank mode. I think they're going to get the first overall pick without a lot of competition down there in the standings with them. Kyler Murray, we don't know if he's going to be ready for the start of the season. They could rest him, which would be smarter for half the season or something. They got a new head coach, Jonathan Gannon, coming from the Eagles. He could surprise people, but I think he's going to be a one and done. So I have the Cardinals finishing 2-15, getting the number 1 overall pick. And don't forget, they also have the Texans' first round pick too, so they could have 2 top 5, top 10 picks in this upcoming draft next year.
That is true about the pick, but I don't think they're in full on tank mode. I will push back on that because if they were, they would have gotten rid of Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson. They're big playmakers in the secondary. Obviously, Hopkins is out the door, but for me, even without Kyler last year, all right, never mind. They were relatively competitive in a couple games. They did draft O-line early, and I mean, we're not going to see, according to the recent news, we're not going to see Colt McCoy. We're going to see Clayton Tune. So maybe a little bit of hope there for fans while Kyler is trying to recover. And obviously we don't know when that is. So for me, they're bad, but they're probably not tanking. And I also would say if they do end up with one of those top picks, I don't think they just move on from Kyler like a lot of people do. But obviously you're saying they might be tempted to.
I don't think they're going to move on from him. I think they should rest him so he stays back, so he comes back healthier. But if depending on what he does when he does come back, maybe they can draft Caleb Williams with that number 1 overall pick. Who knows?
Regardless, they're a bad team towards the bottom of the NFC. Let's move on. Let's go to the NFC East. You guys ready for this one? Well, we got some Giants fans lurking around the waters. Also some Cowboys. Let's see. There we go. What do you know? Overall, I'd say we're relatively similar here. The top 2 teams and the bottom 2 teams, and the top 2 are close, the bottom 2 are close. Overall, this division in general is more competitive. Why don't we start with the Eagles? So the Eagles, obviously everyone's loving the GM right now, loving the draft that they had. They obviously went to the Super Bowl. All I'm saying here is the Cowboys did close the gap. The Eagles lost Javon Hargrave on the D-line. I think that it's hard to go back to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. And I don't know. For me, they're still a good team. They should be the favorites for this division, maybe even in the NFC. But I think the Cowboys closed the gap.
Yeah, the Eagles had a great season last year. They're not going to repeat it. Had the easiest, one of the easiest schedules last year. Going from that to one of the hardest. They got to play the AFC East, the NFC East twice, and they have the Chiefs in their schedule too. So I think they're going to decline. Still going to make the playoffs, no worries. Jalen Hurts is still going to be a top 5 quarterback easily. Great draft. A lot of people, or those 2 Georgia guys, fell in their lap. So that's good for a couple guys they lost. Ultimately, 11-6, I thought was a good fit for them.
Cowboys are next. Like I said, Eagles maybe tiny bit worse. Cowboys maybe a small margin better. Obviously, some veteran guys, Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks, who should be big pieces to add to both the offense and defense. But you're the expert, Tub. I'll let you take this one from Dallas.
Yeah, maybe a little biased, but the Cowboys they went 12-5 last year and ended up with the 5 seed because they had the Eagles in their division. And I'm actually having them decline 1 game, so I don't think there's any bias there. But they did address some needs in the draft. They got Mozzie Smith to add to their D-line, which D-line was struggling besides the edge rushers, DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. They got a tight end, which I'm not really sure about. I'm kind of more on the side of keeping Jake Ferguson as the tight end 1 before Schoonmaker from Michigan. But I think Cooks will be that wide receiver 2 that Dak can kind of rely on in the short game or the long game. But I do have the Cowboys winning the division. There hasn't been a repeat in the NFC East division winner in a super long time, so I'm just going to follow that pattern, and I don't think the Giants or Commanders could do it. So the Cowboys are up.
Mr. MJ is in the chat. He threw up when he heard that one, and he's going to throw up when he hears the next one. So will Slenny when he eventually hears this. 7-10 Giants missing the playoffs. Both of us got them at 7-10, which might come as a surprise. Daniel Jones with a huge leap last season, and in many people's eyes, including myself, they did improve this offseason. They bring in Darren Waller. They bring in some defensive reinforcement. I think Bobby Okereke is one of them. And the biggest thing here is that last season they punched above their weight, and this season they have a hard schedule. That's it. They won some close games last year against some bad teams. And this year I think they don't get as much luck.
Yeah, they made the playoffs by the skin of their teeth last year, and it took a coach of the year to do it. I do think Brian Daboll is a great bald coach. But anyways, I do think Daniel Jones, pretty good season last year compared to his previous seasons, earned himself a nice little contract. But I do think he declines. He doesn't repeat what he does. He has tougher opponents. I think the Giants finished 3rd at 7-10.
All right, let's see. The Washington Commanders Again, both have them in that fourth spot. I got them 2 wins ahead of you. But overall, we're probably thinking along the same lines. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I said this earlier. I don't really look at the standings when I fill them out, and I had the Washington Commanders finishing 5-12. It does surprise me because usually they're kind of in the playoff hunt, so I expected them to have a couple more wins, but I guess I just didn't think so. I mean, that's not really. I mean, they got Jacoby Brissett, who's a good veteran quarterback, a good decent backup, but it all looks like they're going with Sam Howell. So we didn't really see much of him. So I'm excited to see Washington Command. They could surprise us. Who knows? They could be a playoff team. But
On that note, yes, they definitely did recently say that QB1 is probably going to be Sam Howell. What I will say is last year they rolled with Heineke and Wentz. Wentz was awful, as everyone knows. And Heineke surprisingly only lost 3 out of the 9 games he played in. So, for me, Brissett and Heineke are pretty much the same. That's a lateral move. So even if you started just Brissett, like this is a guy that can win with the team around him. Now they're going to go with Howell, and they have Eric Bieniemy in town. I think that, I think that this team is pretty much like there's not a big gap between the Giants and the Commanders. There's just not. I think they'll be competitive. That's about all you can say. They're middle of the pack competitive. Maybe not even middle of the pack, but anything else in the NFC East? We're going to get more into Sam Howell later. I have something surprise for you at the end of the predictions.
I'm all set. The Cowboys are winning it.
All right. So, I don't even know what's next. I think NFC North. Let's see. And there it is. Oof. Okay, we're like pretty much on the same page about everything, even though like it's probably not that surprising because for the most part, I feel like I played it safe with these predictions, minus a couple of things here and there. But go ahead and start us with the Vikings.
Yeah, I have the Vikings finishing as the number 1 seed. So I kind of surprised myself with that. They're tied with the Eagles and Cowboys for the best record in the NFC. They kind of dominate the division at 5-1. To me, there's another team like this that I'll discuss later, but the Vikings are one of those teams that I feel like any game they play could go either way. So I think it just falls in their favor, and I don't think they're ready to give up on the division just yet. I don't think the Bears or Packers are strong enough to make that leap, or a lot of people like the Lions to win the division. I don't think that's going to happen just yet, but I think the Vikings should win it with ease.
I mean, you just said like you think they could lose or win any game. That's not a good thing for a team you're projecting as the 1 seed.
It's not a good thing, you'll see it later for the team that got the bad end of that.
Especially since last year, you could argue that they won. I mean, they did win so many close games. For me, I thought I had them high. It's only 1 game behind you, but definitely not my 1 seed. What I will say is they got worse. Like, they lost their 4 best corners. They lost Zadarius Smith. Kirk's another year older, and probably for me, this is going to be his last year. I think they really considered moving on from him this offseason. And they still, for all we know, they still might trade for like Trey Lance or Zach Wilson. Who knows? But I think if this team's going to win games, it's going to be, I mean, this many games, it's going to be a lot of shootouts, which is kind of what we saw last year, like we mentioned. Obviously, they add Hawkinson last year as well, and Jordan Addison in the draft as another weapon. We'll see. I mean, I think both of us are a little high on the Vikings, but I think I agree with you. Like, it's more the fact that I don't see the other teams stepping up and winning it. Detroit, we got them both 9-8. Go ahead.
Yeah, everybody's falling in love with Dan Campbell's squad and the Detroit Lions. They kind of had a questionable draft, but the way they ended the season last year, destroying the Packers and Aaron Rodgers' hope for the playoffs. Kind of made me give them a couple more wins. 9-8 for the Detroit Lions. It sounds crazy, but they're gonna make the playoffs this year.
They had a good draft. A lot. Well, I don't know. I guess you could argue they had a bad draft with like the reaches they're making, but the players coming out of it, especially for fantasy purposes, are interesting. Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, but for me, I'm expecting another big year out of Goff. I think it's not just a one-season fluke. Jameson Williams suspended 6 games. That's something worth noting. Besides that, I think that they do take like another step up, but I don't think it's enough to win the division just yet. I don't know. Losing DeAndre Swift too, they pretty much took care of business replacing him. But like I said, with Gibbs and Montgomery, secondary is still an issue. But overall, solid team, playoff team for both of us.
Yeah, and right behind them, 2 wins, 7-10. I got the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love's first true year as a Green Bay Packer. Let's see if he could follow in the footsteps of Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers with that stupid pattern, that conspiracy theory shit. Anyways, Packers 7-10. I don't know about Jordan Love. He hasn't really shown us anything in the games he's played, but I don't know, dude. They got rid of. They lost Robert Tonyan, and then they drafted 2 tight ends in the first 2 rounds of the draft. I don't know what they're planning on doing with that, but they're just not a strong enough team to compete with the other 2.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say than that. Like you said, 2 rookie tight ends and also Jaden Reed. All unknowns, all supposed to be pretty big pieces in the offense, including Jordan Love. Like, again, it's just so many unknowns that me giving them 9 wins is pretty much, in my eyes, their ceiling. I give them the benefit of the doubt because they're just one of those teams that are always good. Like Packers, Steelers, Pats just always seem to find ways to have winning seasons. So I don't have much more faith in them than that. But I think a 9-win season, like, I don't know actually, because like what I just said, those are like teams with winning cultures. They're not going to be happy missing the playoffs. But at the same time, first year without Rodgers wouldn't be a massive disaster at 9 wins. I don't have anything else to say though. It's just so unknown. If you told me they only won like 4 games, I wouldn't be too shocked. But it is what it is. And to round out the division, Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I got the Bears finishing tied with the Green Bay Packers at 7-10. Slight improvement from where they finished last year. Another team that could be, a sneaky, good team that nobody expects. Maybe they slip in the playoffs. I don't see it. Justin Fields coming back. I think he has another good year running away from defenders and making crazy runs because his O-line let defenders through. But I don't have a lot of faith in the Bears this year.
For me, obviously, new coach, new target in DJ Moore, new target in Chase Claypool for the full season, and then drafted Roschon Johnson, another running back. I think it's hard to argue, and then obviously Fields supposed to take another big step this season. It's hard to argue that they didn't get better, but that's not saying much. They won 3 games last year. They were really, really bad, especially on offense. I think they take a step up, just like pretty much every team in this division besides the Vikings. And it's still not good enough to finish anywhere besides 4th, but they're heading in the positive trajectory. I guess that's all you can ask for after last season. Let's move on. NFC South, last one. Oh, wow, we got some different ones. I didn't even notice this. Okay, let's start from the bottom up. Let's start with the Bucks.
The Bucks, what do I got them finishing at? 5-12, I think. losing coming off an 8-9 playoff season. They lost Tom Brady, and honestly, this division was probably the trickiest out of all of them to decide like who's gonna finish in top to bottom, honestly. But the Bucks kind of got a team around Baker Mayfield if they go with Baker Mayfield instead of Kyle Trask. But
Whoa.
I don't think what.
You're saying they can win with Baker. They can win like 6-7 games with Baker.
Absolutely, I think they can. In this division, yeah. This division is terrible, and everybody knows it's terrible. And who knows? You could flip the coin, the four-sided coin, to see who wins in this division. In my opinion, I think I'm skewed a little bit more towards the Saints and Panthers, but you can't sleep on Bucks or Falcons, honestly.
I'm sleeping heavily on the Bucks. They won 8 games last year and made the playoffs by default, but this season is not the same QB. You have Baker or Kyle Trask. That's the worst QB room in the NFL. I don't care if you go Baker or Trask. And I think they should be not tanking outwardly, but they're going to get a high pick and take a QB, whether it's Williams or Drake May or whoever comes out of the college draft. But I got no faith in the Bucks. They're finishing last in this division, and just a random stray because why not? Mike Evans is the most overrated wide receiver in the league. Moving on. We can go with, since you have the Falcons at 5-12. Let's go with them next because I have them basically in third, tied with the same record.
Yeah, they got another. Call it quarterback controversy if you want. They got Taylor Heineke, and I'm trying to think of other players. I didn't take notes if you can't tell, but I think Desmond Ridder ultimately leads this team to a 5-12 record. But like I said, it's just so tough to figure out this division because anybody could win. But Bijan Robinson was a great ad. I think he's going to be establish a nice run game. Arthur Smith as head coach, I'm not a big fan of him, so 5-12, sure.
So I will give you Arthur Smith. Got to be easily bottom 3 coach in the league. However, this is one of the most exciting offenses you can think of. Obviously, Bijan, probably the best, highest RB prospect we've seen probably ever, if not Saquon maybe. But Pitts, London, young guys that are going to hopefully take steps forward if Arthur Smith decides to throw the ball. But he could run the ball a million times this season, and this team would still be okay because of Bijan. They did add some defensive pieces, Jesse Bates, David Onyemata. I think that... How many wins did they have last year? They had 7 wins, bro. There's no way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're getting 8. They're getting 8. And they're not making the playoffs unless Desmond Ridder is that guy. But, again, we'll talk more about him later in the show. I got something planned that Tubby doesn't know about. 8-9, I have them tied with the Panthers at 8-9. You have the Panthers at 10-7. Let's talk about them next. They're your division winners. Talk them up.
Yeah, I really like the Panthers this year. I really like Bryce Young to make a statement in his rookie year. I like the additions they made on offense. Getting a veteran receiver in Adam Thielen for a rookie quarterback, I think, is more important than people know. Another veteran tight end, Hayden Hurst. Getting Miles Sanders in the backfield. I think this is one of the most improved offenses in the league. And I think the veteran presence is really going to help Bryce Young lead this team to the division win.
Veteran presence of Hayden Hurst?
Yes.
Come on, bro. Do you see how much they're paying this guy? It's
No.
bad, dude. And what I will tell you is if you... Honestly, you could argue against Houston. But let's say the Houston Texans are not involved. The Panthers have the worst wide receiver room. Am I wrong about that?
Adam Thielen.
Adam Thielen, bro. Really. DJ Moore.
That's the wide receiver. I don't know. I don't know if you could call him a bottom 5 receiver. He was a wide receiver one on the Vikings. I know he's old now, but
DJ Moore is out the door. They're going to hurt because of that. I have him at 8 and 9. That's pretty good. That's me having faith in Bryce Young, I guess, and new coach, right? Frank Reich is there, and yeah, I mean, I think I would probably flip a coin between Atlanta and Carolina on who I think's gonna be the better. If I had to take a guess right now, gun to my head, I might say Atlanta, bro. But
yeah, Desmond Ridder isn't him, bro.
I don't know. I'm not saying he's him, but rookie QBs might take a minute for Bryce. I don't know. Who knows? New Orleans Saints are my division winners. That's my pick. David Carr is a huge. Did I just say David Carr?
David.
Derek Carr is a huge upgrade to Andy Dalton. Obviously, everyone knows Dalton was probably one of the worst QBs at least last season. They won 7 games. Easily going to win the division. Maybe not 10, maybe 9. I don't know. But it's just a different team.
I have the Saints. I think they're going to be a decent, pretty good team. I'm just missing out on the playoffs. Only 1 win behind what you said. I just have the Panthers doing better. I think their run game was unstoppable. Anyways, let's get to the Saints. I think Derek Carr, you see a little Raider bias for them winning the division right off the bat. I don't think he could come there and win the division that easy. NFC South is
Whoa.
NFC South is ass.
So yeah, you just called it the worst division, which I can agree with. And Derek Carr has had
it's not the worst division in the NFL.
Has had a new coordinator and new head coaches literally every season. So what does it matter that he's in a new place? Like this team's gonna win the division. I mean,
Juwan Johnson's the only bright spot, and Chris Olave.
Okay.
Alvin Kamara is getting old. He doesn't have it. He's gonna be suspended anyways.
Okay, I don't care.
Who's their running back?
Not for the whole year.
Ingram?
They got Jamal Williams, right?
Oh, they did get
Kendrick Miller's there, the rookie from
not.
TCU. It's all right. You'll just have to trust me on this one. Saints are winning the division. Let's move on to the AFC. I believe I went in the same divisional order, so first up should be, well, let's just find out. The AFC West. Go ahead, Tubby. However you want to start, top or bottom?
Hang on. I can't see. I can't even see my picture yet because it's so laggy. What do I have? I have the Raiders 7 and 10, right?
We both have them 7 and 10. Yep.
I mean, this is just too good at a division. It's just we don't even know what's happening with the Raiders QB situation. Jimmy G get hurt or something. I don't even know who the backup is there. It just sounds like a shit show. They got Josh McDaniels, who's one of the worst head coaches in the league. They're just gonna be bad. They're just gonna be a bad team, and I have them finishing 7 and 10, which I think it's on the higher side.
Let me tell you why you are completely right. I'm not gonna argue about this. I hate the Raiders this season. Jimmy G, he'll be good to go. Sadly, I'm not looking forward. I'm a Raiders fan. For everyone in here that already knows that, and Josh McDaniels is a bottom 3, probably the worst. I mean, Arthur Smith and him are really competing for that title, worst coach in the league. I have no faith in this team. The defense is always horrible. Like you said, this division's too hard. They lose Waller. What else is to say? You got Josh Jacobs now, who might play on a franchise tag, and he's putting out cryptic tweets that it sounds like he's not happy. It's a train wreck, as always, and they're definitely bottom of this division. 7 wins is kind of generous, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I got the Los Angeles Chargers finishing 3rd at 8 and 9, and this is what I was talking about earlier. The Vikings and the Chargers are the 2 teams could win any game and you could lose any game. And I think this is going to hurt the Chargers this year. I think this has been the case for them the last few years. They were able to make it last year. I think they come up short this year. Justin Herbert, I just haven't, like, he had a great year 2 years ago. He's still a great quarterback, but I just haven't heard much of him last year, and I just don't think. I think the Broncos improve, so I think the division gets tougher. So I think they're out.
So for me, I only have them 2 games ahead of you, so I'm not gonna talk about how great Justin Herbert is the whole time. But what I will say is, let me just slide in. Actually, they did blow a massive lead to the Jaguars in the first round of the playoffs. Let's not forget that. But they were good enough to get there, and all year they're dealing with injuries on defense, and they're obviously 2 receivers. So they bring in Quentin Johnston, and then hopefully these 2 guys stay healthy at receiver. If that's the case, and their defense also is healthy, this is still a legit team. Again, they should have won that playoff game, but I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, this is still a very good team, and I've definitely got them in the playoffs.
Yeah, and it looks like we both have the Broncos improving from their fucking abysmal season last year. And I think this year, for Russell Wilson, like, this is it. You have everything you need, dude. You have Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Greg Dulcich's a young tight end, and then you draft Marvin Mims. You have the weapons. The offensive line is solid. The defense is there. We saw it last year, and I think Russell Wilson, I don't think he's going to have 2 bad seasons in a row. People are saying he sucks and he's washed and he's delusional, which he might be delusional, but he does know how to play football, and I think he bounces back from the terrible season last year and leads his team to the playoffs.
Okay, here's the deal. Yes, I only have them 1 game behind you, and yes, I have them improving big time, but you are definitely more bullish on them than I am. I think that what you said about the defense, that is 100% true. I would say this is the most underrated defense in the league. Because of that, they will win some games. But 9 games, I mean, the AFC is so loaded. There's no way this team makes the playoffs. Yeah, Sean Payton comes to town, but I think what is more likely than Wilson winning a playoff game easily is him getting benched to, Jarrett Stidham? I think that could happen at some point in the season. I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, this was kind of like my boldest take of this video by having the Denver Broncos on a playoff spot. But I think they do it.
And the Chiefs are at the top of the division. I have them at 14 wins, which is a lot. You got them at 12. My 1 seed in the AFC, you're 2 overall. I'm sure we're going to say a lot of the same things. This receiver core is worse than it has been since Mahomes has been there. But it does not matter. They still have Mahomes. They still have Reed. They still have Kelsey. And I will say the defense is pretty... The defense is the exact same as it was last year in terms of player personnel. And their defense steadily improved over the course of last season. So they're still the team to beat, unfortunately, in the AFC.
Yeah, I think they're also... I do have them as a 2 seed, but I do think they are the team to beat when it comes playoff time. I actually had them starting off 5-5, and then getting seven wins in a row to end the season. So, I mean, there's not really much to say. When you have Patrick Mahomes on your team, like he's gonna win the division for you. And anybody who says otherwise, last year a bunch of people had the Chargers winning the division. Like, just stop. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's always been Patrick Mahomes.
Hey, wasn't that you, little bro?
I did not. I had the Chiefs.
Yeah, all right. Moving on. We got the AFC South. 4 seed Jacksonville Jaguars coming in at 10-7 at the top of the division. What do we think, Tubby?
This is the worst division in football. Actually, I mean, there could be arguments made, but Jacksonville 10-7. They could be better, they could be worse, but they're winning this division without a doubt. Trevor Lawrence takes another big step in his career. They got Calvin Ridley back from his sports betting incident. You got a nice solid 1-2 punch in him and Kirk. ETN, they just got a solid team around Trevor Lawrence, and I see him winning division easily.
They won 9 games last year, and just like Justin Fields, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to take a big leap in his in next season. And like you said, Ridley comes into the picture now as well. They're going to win the division probably very easily. My question is, because the AFC is so loaded, what is the Jaguars' role like in the AFC? Can they win? Can they rip off like multiple playoff wins? Last year, like I said, they did win. Do they have a chance at an AFC championship or Super Bowl? What do you think?
I think they definitely can make a run to the AFC championship. I don't think they're at Super Bowl level yet. I mean, we saw this guy come back from 24-0, 31, like I didn't even 31-0 maybe in this first career playoff game. I actually do have them winning in the wild card weekend, making it to the divisional. I think I have them winning again in my playoff predictions, but we don't have those here today. But I do think the Jaguars can make a run to the AFC Championship, like we saw Blake Bortles with that team. But I think they can make a run to the AFC Championship.
Let it be known that the entire time the Raiders were searching for a new coach, I wanted Doug Peterson. He's a great coach, and I think that they're probably a couple, maybe 1 or 2 playmakers away from being the real contender in the AFC. I think they need someone in the secondary particularly to take that next leap. But for now, AFC South division winners in both of our opinions. Let's go to the Texans next. Let's switch it up. Bottom of the division. 6 wins for you.
There's a big storyline here in the AFC South of quarterbacks. C.J. Stroud coming to Houston and Anthony Richardson coming to Indy. I don't know, bro.
They're bad.
Texans. They're still going to be the worst. It might be the Titans, but they just suck. I don't know. C.J. Stroud, I'm not that high, and I'm probably the least high on him on any rookie quarterback this year. But they're not going to go anywhere, and I think they're going to give the Cardinals another top 10 pick.
I agree. I mean, they get Will Anderson and a couple of rookies, obviously C.J. Stroud, so at least the fans have some hope, but they shouldn't have too much hope because they're going to suck. Like I said, I think this has got to be a bottom 3 wide receiver core in the league. Like, what are we doing? Nico Collins and Tank Dell, another rookie, Xavier Hutchinson. Who else do they have? Like, I'm also pretty low on Stroud. Huh?
Dalton Schultz.
I'm also pretty low on Stroud long term. I think, first of all, they're not surrounding him with any weapons, as we just said. But this is a guy who's only surrounded by weapons in college. And overall, I think we're back to being able to say Ohio State QBs probably, I don't know, I'm just low on Ohio State QBs besides Fields. To me, they're still going to have at least a bottom. They're the worst team in the AFC, right? Like, there's no argument against it. You have them at 6 wins, and they're still the worst. The AFC's loaded. They're going to get beat up on, even in a weak division. That's it. Nothing else to say. Let's go to Titans next, since we have them around the same win total, 6 and 7 games.
I hate the Titans. I really do. I should have had them finishing with like 5 wins. I don't know why I hate them. Tannehill is showing that he could be solid. Probably not as high in Mike Vrabel as most people are. But watching them just completely break down last year, I think they had like 7 losses to end the season. Like, I mean, how could I have them finishing any better than 7 and 10? They should be starting Will Levis, and then maybe they can make a playoff run. But if you have Tannehill and Derrick Henry and Treylon Burks as your 3 offensive weapons, I mean, how far could you really go?
Again, I keep talking about last year. Just usually use it as a benchmark, but They won 7 games. I don't know if anyone cares because, they're literally riding Henry until the wheels fall off, which at this point could be sooner rather than later. And what you just said about Levis, I agree. I think he's inevitable. Like, Tannehill, this offense, passing game sucks. Defensive against the pass sucks. Levis is inevitable. They got a tackle in the draft, which will help him eventually. And, if you're a Tennessee fan, the best you can say is hopefully this is it for Tannehill experience. But they're pretty much in the same boat as a team like the Raiders, like below average with a bridge QB at the moment. But they're in a better spot because they did draft a QB. And they have 2 technically young QBs on the roster.
Yeah, and I do think, obviously you don't think anybody's going to compete with the Jags at all. I don't either, but I think if there was a team to do it, I'm higher on the Indy Colts than most people would be. But I do like Anthony Richardson. I think he's a good fit. Maybe not as good as Will Levis would be, but they got him, Jonathan Taylor, run the read option with him. They could be dangerous. He was hurt for most of the year last year. The Colts were pretty bad, but you got Michael Pittman there, and I don't know, dude. I'm just done with this division.
Yeah, again, I'm not going to add too much more. I don't have him at 8 wins because I do think that Richardson's going to take some time, not only to develop, but I don't know that he starts week 1. And you can't really say that about the other 2 QBs that got drafted early, Stroud and Young, but I wouldn't be shocked if they went with, it's Minshew, right, as their backup? I think it's Minshew. And I also, I'm not even going to get into Anthony Richardson other than that. I think we don't know what he'll be or what he'll turn into, but for now, they at least can pull out 5 wins, especially in that bad of a division. But let's move on because I'm sick of looking at these gross teams. AFC North, best division in football, hands down.
Yeah, 100%. And unfortunately, I am higher on the Steelers than I usually am. I think Mike Tomlin continues a streak of having a winning record. I really want this. I don't know why I like the Steelers, but I just really want them to make the playoffs, and I just couldn't. This division in the AFC is just way too good. Got top 5 coach in Mike Tomlin. I think Kenny Pickett takes a great leap. You got George Pickens entering his sophomore year. Deontay Johnson is a target master. But you just can't compete in this division. I'm sorry.
Again, I said it earlier. Packers, Patriots, Steelers, those are the teams that are always around, always competitive regardless of who they have on their roster, especially with those coaches that all those 3 teams have. So Mike Tomlin's going to be competitive, even though I don't love Pickett. I don't think he's going to take a big leap, but it is what it is. They did add some good pieces, Joey Porter Jr., Darnell Washington in the draft, and then some other role players, Allen Robinson, Cole Holcomb, one of your favorites, and Pat Peterson. So 8-9 wins seems about right, but like you said, hardest division of football. It's tough to predict any higher than this.
Yeah, and right above them I have their division rival. Probably the biggest surprise for the viewers out there. I have the Baltimore Ravens missing the playoffs and Lamar Jackson's first contract year. He's now the highest paid quarterback and highest paid player, I think, in NFL history. But he's going to go out there and lead his team to a 10-7 record if he could even stay healthy. He does have weapons to throw to, but when I view the Ravens, I see they're gonna run the ball. That's their style. They have Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, and OBJ, which is a pretty solid top 3 receiving core. Not top 3 receiving core, but 3 receivers. But I just don't think they get over the hump of this division. 10-7, great record. It just sucks that you missed the playoffs with 3 games over seven or 3 games over 500 in the AFC.
Won 10 games last year, and I do think they're going to throw the ball a lot more this season with the new coordinator in town. And I think even without that happening, a healthy Lamar is enough to get them back into the playoffs. If he's healthy the whole year, there's no way this is not a playoff team. They're legit. Obviously, their record is going to be tough with this division. Gerard thinks we were joking in the chat. No, this is hands down the hardest division in football, most competitive.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not even close. You could tell me right now, hey, the Steelers are going to win a playoff game this year. I wouldn't be shocked. You could tell me that the Bengals finished third, and I would be shocked, but, like, it's in the realm of possibilities. Besides that, like, yeah, they get J.K. Dobbins healthy as well. I'm back in on the Ravens for sure.
Yeah. And speaking of back in the back door for Deshaun Watson and his massage therapist.
Yes, sir.
See?
11
Get it
wins.
Deshaun Watson, he has a team around him. All he's got to do is go out there and perform like his old self. Suspended 11 games last year. Came back and he looked awful. And the Browns suffered from that. But they got the team around it. I think if they're going to make a playoff run or run out the playoffs, it's got to be now. I think in a couple years, you're going to lose Nick Chubb. You're going to lose. I mean, it's just football. You're going to lose guys on defense, and Deshaun Watson's only getting older. So I think this is the year they put it together, and who knows? I have them going 11-6.
We got a question in the chat from Michael Jordan who asked if Deshaun Watson will finish the season. I'm not sure what that means. We're not going to predict injuries or anything, so as long as he's not injured, I think both of us are signing off on the fact that he's a great NFL QB, and we have faith that this team will win games because of it. They really only lost Jadeveon Clowney, which isn't that big of a loss anymore on defense. I think a full season now. He's acclimated to Cleveland. They're back. They're winning double-digit games, and they'll definitely be at least in the playoff hunt. Both of us agree on that.
Yeah, and finishing off with Joe Cool himself, the Cincinnati Bengals. I've gone 11-6. I think they're going to be a better team than their record. I think they're probably going to be a top 2, top 3 easily team in the AFC. But it's just like they drop a couple in the division, 3-3, and they have a tough road, being the former first place in the division. So, it's just going to be the same Bengals we saw from last year, the year before, borderline Super Bowl team. See if they could do it.
And that's the thing, is they are a complete team with all the right pieces, and now they've been there before. They've been to the Super Bowl, the postseason. Joe Burrow, he's had some injuries going on each season too, I think, right? The ACL, and then I think he missed time last year for something, didn't he?
I'm not sure. I know Jamar missed, but
regardless, the point is they're a Super Bowl contender. We're going to predict our Super Bowls later, and I'm sure they'll at least come up in conversation along with some of the other teams we've talked about. So, before I change the slide here, we're about to get into the AFC East, and that should be interesting for the Jets and Patriots fans that we are friends with. Let's do it. Without further ado, our AFC East predictions right there.
Jordan's going to have a field day on me, isn't he?
Oof. So, let's start at the top. The Buffalo Bills.
You want to go?
Yeah, so for me, I have them at 12 wins, 3 seed. I think that the AFC is so loaded that I'm actually going to say a hot take about the Bills here. Yeah, they won 13 games last year, I believe. Yes, they did. From what I understand, they have a brand new offensive line. That's probably going to be roughly the same, if not a little bit better. They draft Dalton Kincaid, who's people are very high on at the tight end position. But my bold prediction is that, and maybe I shouldn't bring it up yet, I think their Super Bowl window is closing. It is closing. I think there's just so much talent in the AFC. They've got, I don't know. I feel like they can never get over the hump. They can't figure it out. Josh Allen's turnovers have turned me off a little bit from him in the playoffs and just in general compared to guys like Burrow and obviously Mahomes, whatever. But obviously still a great team. They're going to win the division. They're going to be a postseason presence. I just don't think they can win a Super Bowl.
I think they still have that window this year for anyhow. People, like you said, are getting very they're criticizing Josh Allen for his turnovers. Yes, but he's a gunslinger. Turnovers are gonna happen. I think whoever says Josh Allen is out of the top 3, I mean I would put him at 2. But if you think he's out of the top 3, then I don't know, dude. I think Josh Allen is still gonna perform. He did great all last year until the playoffs, where people started shitting on him. But they haven't really performed that well in the playoffs. But
I'm not saying
they finished with the number 1 seed in the AFC, but they may not be the best team in the AFC.
I'm not saying just because he's QB3 or 4 or 5, wherever people are going to argue to put him, that they can't win the Super Bowl. You can win a Super Bowl with freaking Brock Purdy and Jimmy G if you have the right pieces around you. The point is, the AFC's loaded, and the Bills just haven't sold me out as a team and as a culture that just can get it done. I don't know. I really like the dynasty that the Chiefs and the Bengals have built ahead of Buffalo.
It's also in the scripts. Damar Hamlin is returning this year, and they're going to win the Super Bowl with Damar Hamlin. Super Bowl MVP. No, it's not going to happen, but he will be on the roster.
We do have some good questions in the chat. I'll keep acknowledging those as they come. QBs ranked in the division. We'll do that once we finish all of them, at least. Let's talk about the Dolphins next. 10-7 for both of us. 6 seed, making the playoffs for both of us. What do you say?
They honestly had a good run at it last year. They just barely missed out. Tua on and off, getting hurt. Concussions, big storyline last year of why the coaches made him play, and but with Tyreek entering some of his last years as a pro, and they got this basically his replacement / wide receiver 1A or 1B and Jalen Waddle. This team could go places. I think they finish above the Jets, who are the most overrated team in the league.
All right. Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Let's go.
So,
go ahead.
Like we both said, 9 wins last year. They were right there, and they did it with Bridgewater and Skylar Thompson. So if Tua stays healthy, there's a little more optimism there just off that alone. There is some bad news recently out of camp. I don't know if you saw a day or two ago, Tyreek Hill potentially could be in some legal issues. I'm sure it'll be fine because the NFL will love to sweep it under the rug because it's Tyreek Hill and he's fast. This team did get, they added Jalen Ramsey and Bradley Chubb. Those are 2 huge defensive pieces. There's no doubt that they're in this range of wins. But like we said, the AFC is so loaded that it wouldn't shock me if they finished as the 9 seed or the 5 seed or anywhere in between. Just kind of happened to be that we both have them in the same seed, which is interesting. But I don't think there can be too many arguments with what we just said there. Let's go to the Jets. And both of our phones are blowing up with Jets and Patriots fans right now that are not happy with what they're seeing because both teams are left out of the playoff picture. But surely if you're a Jets fan and you're realistic, you're seeing 9 and 10 wins on our predictions. You're really mad about that? Let's start here, Tubby. Go ahead.
Vegas has the Jets odds or win total at 9.5. and I think that's a great line. I think they finished just under at 9-8. Um, Aaron Rodgers, our Lord and Savior, comes to New York and everything's gonna be okay. Well, I don't think that will be happening. They do have a great young defense, a great young core. Sauce Gardner, Quinn Williams, Garrett Wilson on offense, Brees Hall. I actually do love like these players on the Jets. It's just I just don't think we saw what Aaron Rodgers did in Green Bay. Yeah, he didn't have the weapons that he does now. I just don't think he's that good of a quarterback anymore. I just don't. I think they still finished with a solid record, 9-8. I just don't think he's good anymore.
I would push back on that statement for sure. That being said, my points are aligned with yours. If anything, I thought that 10 wins would be higher than what you had and what most would think. So I was ready to like defend why I had him at 10 wins. But Vegas has him at 9.5. Maybe a little bit of bias there just because of so much hype around Rodgers and the young guys. But for me, this is a team that they won 7 games last year. So it's definitely in the realms of possibility to win 2 or 3 extra games when you add a guy like Rodgers compared to their QB situation last year. 100%. And just like the Dolphins, just like the Browns and the Steelers and all these teams that are on this bubble in the AFC, it's like if you told me they won or they finished as like a 5 seed, I wouldn't be shocked. If you told me they finished as a 10 seed, I wouldn't be shocked. The AFC, the NFL in general is more balanced than it has been in years. And it's going to be, listen, he's the one arguing in the chat that this is the hardest division in football. So, I mean, I got him at 1 division win. Do I think that's going to happen? No, they'll probably get more than that. But it's not an easy schedule by any means. They got a lot of primetime games. I don't know what else to say other than that.
Yeah, they're just boned, dude.
Not
But anyway, let's just move on, dude. Fuck the Jets, Patriots.
And no, one more thing. 10 wins is literally a double-digit playoff. Like, you win 10 games, you're kind of expecting to make the playoffs. Look, the Dolphins made it at 10-7. Like, I'm predicting a 10-win season. That's a good thing, but let's leave it at that.
The same thing I had the Ravens 10-7. It could be better, but anyways, Patriots. I did just notice it brought to my attention by our former fantasy champion that I do have the Patriots finishing 15th in the AFC at 6-11, and I have the Texans finishing 6-11 as the 16th seed. So it's kind of crazy how high I am on even like the bottom tier AFC teams, but. And you never know with Bill Belichick. We saw 2 years ago he made the playoffs in Mac Jones' rookie year. Anything could happen when you have Bill Belichick. But I just, it's just like so weird. Like if you tell me to name 3 receivers in the Patriots room, I could probably think of some, but like they're terrible. They're all terrible. And Ramondre Stevenson is clearly the bright spot of this offense. Defense, you got Matt Judon, I love Matt Judon. He's a beast. But in this division, in this conference, they're not smelling the playoffs.
Where to start? I'll piggyback off what you said. Yeah, Ramondre, cool. We can get excited about it. Let's be realistic here. He's not going to be a bell cow with Bill Belichick there, but that's more for fantasy purposes. Let's just talk to the record itself here. I got him at 7 wins. I think again. They're in that same tier as the Raiders and the Titans with ugly QBs. And yeah, the New England Patriots, how many wins did they have last year? 7. Yep. 7 wins. They're going to be there. They're going to be competitive, just like the Steelers, just like the Packers, regardless of their QB. Like, we can say that because they have such a great coach and because of the winning culture that's there. But it's a QB league. Not just is this a hard division, it's a QB league. The AFC is brutal. Even though you have an actual offensive coordinator in town this season with Bill O'Brien, you have Mac Jones at QB. Like, he's not going to win you games. He can be a game manager, but he's not going to go win you games. And I also think a lot of Pats fans, at least the ones I've talked to, starting to like, I'm not going to address that yet because we're about to address that in a minute.
I just want to mention one thing. E-Hop also visited the Patriots. I'll be very interested to see where he goes because he does go to the Patriots. Obviously, he doesn't have as good as a QB as he may have if he went somewhere else. But D Hop is still one of those guys, even though he's getting up there in age. He's still one of those guys where you can throw it up and he'll come down with it. So that would be a big advantage if he could get that from Mac Jones. But regardless, I do think Mac Jones, after this year, maybe 2 years, he's gone.
We are going to talk about D Hop a tiny bit more in the next segment. I told you kind of some things that you didn't know about, but I do want to address. Because you said that thing about receivers, we're getting texts about these receivers. Are we really talking about Juju Smith-Schuster right now? Are we really talking about Juju? Like, if that's your wide receiver one, you're in trouble. It doesn't matter who your coordinator is. Probably people are saying, oh, like, yeah, we lost Jacoby Myers, we got Juju. That's a downgrade. You have Kendrick Bourne. Oh, he's a dog? Really? I'm not going to get into the specifics of people that are texting us here, but let's just leave it at that. 7 wins, I don't even think you can be mad about, just like with the Jets. I think, whatever. Let's move on. So that's pretty much our entire standings here, but I do have some extra things, some quick questions here. So it starts with your Super Bowl predictions, and I'll start since this is the first time you're seeing any of this. You can talk about some teams that can actually contend if you want, but I'm just going to say my 2 teams that are going to be in the Super Bowl right now. You can bookmark it. The Kansas City Chiefs are the team to beat, but my AFC prediction is the Cincinnati Bengals for sure. I think they're going to be in the Super Bowl against the San Francisco 49ers. I don't know which QB is going to be there. I'm assuming at this point probably Purdy, but it doesn't really matter. That's going to be the Super Bowl, according to me, on June 21st, 2023.
Yeah, so I still think the 3 main teams in the AFC, I had the divisional round, 1, 2, 3, 4. I had all the division winners moving on to the divisional round, and I think the Jags make it to the AFC Championship against the Bengals, and then the Bengals make the Super Bowl, same as you. And for the NFC, all right, relax.
No.
I have the Cowboys. All right, and
Like,
this is
you
why.
do this to yourself every season.
First of all, Dak. Listen, I'll say right now, I think Cincinnati will win that Super Bowl, but I think Dak, he owns the NFC East. He'll play against the Eagles in the playoffs. I mean, this is the year to do it. Like I said, this is the year for the Cowboys to win the division because of their schedule. I think both the Eagles and the Niners have declined. Both are the Super Bowl favorites, but the Cowboys are closer to them as people think, and I think if they could get a nice close game against the Eagles, and I think they'll get 3rd time's a charm on the 49ers if they meet up with them in the playoffs, if they could even make it out of like the wild card or the divisional. But I do have Cincinnati, Dallas, Super Bowl with Cincy taking it home.
What I'm going to say is undoubtedly the Cowboys are, you got San Fran, Eagles, and then probably Dallas. Both of us are expecting a drop-off from Minnesota. And I'm also expecting this to be Kirk's last season, but that's somewhat unrelated. What I'm kind of saying is, yeah, you have a shot, but you do this to yourself. Not you specifically, but Dallas fans every single season.
Listen, yeah, I'm not one of those, like, I know it sounds like it, but I'm not one of those guys who says this is the year. Yeah, I have hope every year. I have them in the Super Bowl, but I don't have them winning it. But I just.
You're right. If there's a window, it's
Anything
now.
can happen. I won't be surprised if the Eagles or San Fran makes it, but I don't think any other team besides those 3 and the 3
Exactly.
I mentioned, the AFC minus the Jags, can make the Super Bowl. It's going to be those 6 teams.
If there's a window, it's now, because the Niners technically don't have like their guy at QB most likely. And we talked about the gap that was closed. You have them winning the division in the East, so it is what it is. Before we move on, let's talk about a couple other things. 2 things. One, just for ha-has, let's go back to the AFC East, because in the chat we did get a question to rank the QBs in that division. So just for ha-has, let's do that. Obviously, for me, it's pretty easy. I mean, you got to put, if we're talking just starters, Allen is 1 easily. Mac Jones is 4 easily. And are we really going to argue about Rodgers and Tua? I'm not. I'm putting Rodgers at 2.
Yeah, I mean, you could have asked for a QB ranking in any other division, and it would have been harder than that.
Yeah.
But that's the right ranking, the only ranking.
And then the other thing, just with our predictions here, and it's going to be hard to recall. I don't have it in front of me. I'm not going to scroll back. Try to think of which wildcard team you think has the best chance at making a run. So which team that didn't win the division in either the AFC or NFC you think has the best chance. I'm going to say, and it's really tough. I mean, I don't think you're allowed to count the NFC East just because of...
Yeah, no, I won't.
But that being said, I think I'm going to pick the Ravens. I think if Lamar's healthy, they can win. I mean, they can win with Lamar. And for me, I'm a little more confident that they will win, make the playoffs over someone like the Browns just because there's a little more uncertainty in Cleveland. So I'm going to go with the Ravens for that one.
This is a tough one. I'm gonna go with the. I'm gonna stay in the division. I'm gonna go with the Browns. It's a team that we saw that could have made a run. They made it to the divisional a couple years ago with Baker Mayfield, and I guess if I had to pick one, I guess I gotta pick the Browns. Browns or Dolphins.
But I know I'm going out of order, but since we're kind of talking about these teams and the teams that are going to go far, let's address offensive and defensive player of the year now. For me, my pick for that, again, I'll go first for both. You haven't had too much time to think. Offensive player of the year, I'm going to go with the guy that's probably going to be in the Super. I mean, they're my pick to win the Super Bowl and yours, the Bengals. I'm going to go with Jamar Chase as offensive player of the year. And defensive player of the year, I'm going to stay in division. And you just talked about it with the Browns. I think Myles Garrett could be defensive player of the year. But, I mean, you're taking a pick out of nothing. You're just picking one player. It's insanely hard. Yeah, just do your best, Tub.
I think defensive player of the year is a lot, easier to decide because it's always between the same guys. It's going to be between Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, T.J. Watt, Micah Parsons.
It's a pass rusher. It's got to be.
Yeah, that's all it is, unless you're Stephon Gilmore in his prime. But I do think T.J. Watt will win Defensive Player of the Year. It's just because he's breaking the sack record already, and that's by missing a game or two. I think if he stays, the issue for him is staying healthy. So if he stays healthy all 17 games, T.J. Watt, I mean, it's gonna be hard for him. Not maybe even break his own record or win this award. But Micah Parsons could definitely compete with him.
He could. I think he's the favorite.
And
Vegas odds favorite.
Offensive Player of the Year.
I'll let you think while I address this man saying Sauce Gardner is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Listen, if that's your pick, cool. But, again, you're just picking a player, so it's hard. I'll let you pick whoever you want. But if you're going to actually have a good statistical chance to predict the winner, you got to go with the pass rusher. And there's a lot of good ones in the league, so take your pick.
Fuck it, dude. I'll just go with, it's gonna be most of these people who win these awards are on good teams besides Rookie of the Year. But I'm just gonna go with someone who's on my fantasy dynasty squad. I'll go with AJ Brown. AJ Brown. Even though the Eagles do decline, I think AJ Brown has an even better season of what he had last year, and he just goes off. But yeah, it is kind of a shot in the dark, but.
And just while we're on the yearly awards, let's hit Rookie of the Year next. I don't know if you have anyone off mine.
I actually got mine already.
Go ahead.
So I'll go first for this one. And I think they usually do. Ooh, okay. I think they usually do go to the quarterback for the rookie of the year, offensive rookie of the year. But I'm gonna give it to Bijan, and for me, it's between Bijan Robinson and Bryce Young. I think Bijan is just a beast in his first year, like Ezekiel Elliott type first rookie year, and I think he's gonna win the rookie of the year.
All right, little bro. I'm not gonna argue. Those are definitely like, if you got to pick someone, it's easily between those two. You're talking about the number one overall pick and the running back who's going to get fed 1,000 times over and over again. For me, I guess I would probably pick Bryce Young because it's probably more likely to be a QB. And I'm surprised with you. You had him winning like 10 games, winning the division, but I don't know.
It's more about their whole offense that carries them that division.
Let's move on to D-Hop landing spot. A lot of interested eyes on this one. We had the question in the chat earlier, and we also had people texting asking about it. I know Patriots fans thinking that they've got him inked to paper already, and I think that's another concern that I have with the Pats. Like, we talked about the receiver room. You can pretend it's as good as you want it to be, but in their heads, it's like, oh, if we get D-Hop, that's a game changer. It is. He's great. He's D-Hop, but I'm going to put it this way. I don't think he's going to the Patriots. And I don't know what team you're about to say, but what I'm going to say is that he's doing like this big, almost like a PR type thing where he's going to these teams. Oh, I'm interested in playing for the Titans. Are you really? Like, you're 31 years old. I know he hasn't explicitly stated he wants to go to a contender, but what do you think he wants to do at this point in his career? He's not going to go play with Mac Jones and Ryan Tannehill. And if he does, good for them. But I don't think it changes a whole lot. I was going to ask you that. I'll say my prediction in a minute. Actually, I'll just say it now. I said it since the start, since he was released. I said he's going to end up in Buffalo. And I don't know, there's some Diggs weird things going around now. That could be a huge help for Buffalo. But if he goes to a team like the Patriots, it's not going to drastically change my predictions for them at all. At all. And probably, honestly, wherever he goes, yeah, he can help a team win an extra couple games. It changes the team's offense completely over the course of the year, but I don't know if it changes the win total by a ton. But the Bills are my pick.
Yeah, I also have the Bills. I think he's expressed a lot of interest in playing for the Bills with Josh Allen. And yeah, like you said, he wants to win a ring. Is he going to do that in Buffalo? Maybe. But I think Diggs and DeAndre Hopkins duo, it's going to be weird to see who's going to be the wide receiver one. I mean, probably Hopkins, but I mean, it's going to be hard to see that, how those two players contrast. But I like him to go to Buffalo too.
Go ahead and let us know in the chat if you've got more questions, because right now we only got 2 more. And if you want to see this go longer, you want to see us address anything else, let us know. So this one's just a weird one that came to my head. The 3 quarterbacks I have listed there. I just want between Desmond Ridder, Sam Howell, and Jordan Love. Not fantasy and not this season. Who do you think has... And I do want a ranking, so not just picking one. Who do you think is in what... Basically, who is going to have the best NFL career? Who's got the best odds to, if you have to bet? We look back in this, 6-8 years time, and who's, maybe they're all irrelevant. Maybe 2 out of them are decent. Maybe one of them is really good. Who knows? But just kind of take your rankings. And if you want me to go first, I can, or at least start. It's up to you.
I'll just rank them real quick. I think 3 is Howell. We haven't seen anything out of him. He could just be a bust and be benched next season. Ridder and Love for me is really tough. I know I kind of shit on this guy earlier in the video with the Falcons, but I think I'm going to go Love 2 and then Ridder 1. I just think it's just because Ridder has a better offense, more opportunities. Love, like I said, he's played more than anybody on this list. Maybe not, but But from what Love has shown, it's just like I don't know if I could have any confidence in him. So I will go Ritter 1, Love 2, Howell 3.
That's pretty interesting. And I know this was a random one, probably hard to think of on the spot. But for me, the number one was easy, and it's Jordan Love. And it goes back to what I've been saying the whole time about, a winning environment. He's in that Green Bay team, right? And not only that, but he's been sitting behind Rodgers. Like, we're talking about two young guys, right? It's not just the fact that he's sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, but it's the fact that he's sitting in general in the NFL. He's had that time to ideally get better, right? So for me, he's the best bet, even though he's a little older, at least for this season, to have a better season. But I think looking back in a couple years, I mean, we might laugh at this. There might be one like stud, who knows? But for me, Love's number one. And then between the other two, it was more of a coin flip. I immediately said, okay, Ritter probably has better weapons. And then I thought about it. It's like Jahan Dotson and Terry McLaurin is good weapons. And you got, again, a new offensive coordinator who's going to be a game changer there. I'm going to go Howell over Ritter. He has played a little bit last season, and they've said, so both of these guys are started week one, so they say, and there's a vet behind them that is pretty much the same, Heineke and Brissett, like I said earlier. I think that Howell makes less mistakes. What we've seen so far, Ritter is very mistake prone. He's my third, but it's just an interesting one. I think we'll be able to look back in the future and maybe laugh at this. And then the last question I have is, who's your bet to be the first coach fired this season?
You go ahead, because I think I know your answer, and I know I'm going to have a different one. So go ahead.
You probably don't know my answer. I think the common one, I mean, there's some guys that come to mind. There's a lot of guys that come to mind. First one that comes to mind is Josh McDaniels. Horrible coach. They're going to underperform this year with Jimmy G after he made the decision to go with Jimmy G. But I don't think that, as a Raiders fan, I can tell you, this guy's going to be given a weirdly long leash, and I think that he's going to be there through the end of this season, which is crazy to me. But I think he should have been fired halfway through last season. But there's other bad coaches in the league. We talked about Arthur Smith. I think a weird one could really be Kevin Stefanski if the Browns turn out bad. Same with the Chargers, Brandon Staley. But those aren't my picks. I'm still thinking here. I'm between one or two.
Alright, you want me to go?
Go ahead.
I honestly kind of forgot about Brandon Staley. Brandon Staley might just be the worst head coach in the league, but I'm not going to pick him. I'm going to pick someone who quarterback you just vouched for. I'm going to pick a veteran coach in Ron Rivera for the Washington Commanders. I have him finishing 5-12, and you think Sam Howell is going to exceed expectations? I mean, expectations aren't too high, but you think he's going to exceed them by at least a little bit? I don't. I think the Commanders have a worse year than they did last year, and I think they're finally done with Riverboat Ron.
So kind of crazy. You just painted me as a Ron believer because he's also my pick. What I meant to say is Eric Bieniemy is in town, and I mean that is what I said. He's the guy that I'm kind of backing here. I think Ron Rivera. What did I have the Commanders at? I did have them at 7 wins, but he's got to be at least in the picture. I think if they get off to a bad start, he's been around for a while and not done anything, right? They've not been to the playoffs with him, so he's probably the pick for me as well.
I got one.
What do you say?
They got one division win, but that was a Mickey Mouse year. So.
Any questions that come to your head about anything?
I'm gassed, and I'm ready for football now that we're doing all this talking about it. And I'm excited to see what the next video is. I don't know if it's gonna be live or just the video, but I'm excited.
Yeah, we can end it on the note of kind of saying like the live was kind of a trial run. Hopefully, I mean, I know the lag was bad. Hopefully, it was at least tolerable, and then we'll look into getting it fixed or making it better. But in the future, like we're open to doing whatever the fans in the chat want to see. Let us know, and throughout the season, we're definitely going to do a lot of different stuff. We have some decent ideas up to this point. But I think that's gonna call it for tonight. Anything else?
Yeah, let's get out of here, huh? I'm done.
Mr. MJ, good night. Barker's in the chat, good night.